to use the correct letters, please.
It does mean pineapple, of course, and they will lock in the Unicorns of Love will lock in the Nico as their second pick. Zaya Rakan coming out straight away for Cody, Sun, and Vulcan, and that's going to be matched by a Morgana in the bottom lane for the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I want to see where this Nico ends up going because it is flexible. It's probably, if I had to guess, something we'd end up seeing in the top lane, but I mean, we have all of our summer split prep. We have these documents and sheets that show the champions that these teams have been picking throughout the summer split, and we think, hey, maybe there's going to be some trends and tendencies. The Renekton, no. That was played once mid and once top for Clutch. Where is this Nico coming from Unicorns of Love?
The only time they played it was Inax playing it down towards the bottom lane.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to take it down bot. We see Zaya Rakan, that has been played very commonly by Cody, Sun, and Vulcan, both of their most played champions in that bottom lane. Next ban's coming out. Skarner removed from Lyra, nothing too surprising there. Caitlyn ban and an Elise ban from the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, I think the Skarner ban is fairly impactful for Clutch Gaming's playstyle, but they have decided to opt against it, mainly because they feel like they can get so much strength out of Zaya Rakan.
Oh, Heimerdinger!
Right away!
So I've done tons of prep because Heimerdinger is amazing. Seros plays it a bunch. We've seen it buffed on recent patches. Heimerdinger, RNG are sweating somewhere right now, chat.
Because you also don't know where it's going to go. You don't know where a lot of these things are going to go. The turrets were actually buffed on Heimerdinger, so for all we know, it could also go top lane with a Q-Max. We saw it bot lane last year frequently when marksman changes were done in patch 8.11. Or you could just throw it mid like Seros does on Detonation Focus Me. So there is so much going on. At least what I can say is the Echo's going jungle.
Yes, Echo jungle. Freak talked about it in his patch 9.19 review. It's a very common pick these days. Incredibly powerful, especially if you can get up towards that Lich Bane, that Zhonya's. The Akali being locked in. Did, of course, have the micro stun taken away from her ult, but now has a little bit more power back in there. So still a pretty powerful pick all round. We'll see where the Unicorns decide to go with their last pick. Could be an AD carry. Yeah. It's going to be the Tristana locked in.
I was going to say they need to make sure they get some physical damage into their team composition, but also they picked the AD carry that very easily goes into a solo lane. So it could be something that No Man's ends up playing if they do want to keep that Heimerdinger in the bot lane. Oh, man.
Definitely could be. They got into 20 seconds to lock in where things are going. The flexibility of both of these drafts, to a degree, of course, Renekton and Akali could swap around. The Echo is likely to be jungle.
I feel like this is it.
Yeah? You think this is where things are going?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing any more swaps, so we'll have 7 seconds to decide if that's final.
Okay, so if we think this is where things are going, oh, we just saw a swap. The Renekton came towards mid lane. Chat, you were baited by your own team. Oh. So let's have a look at it. Let's assess exactly how we think these two teams are going to play out here now that everything is locked into place.
Whew. Well, we know that Unicorns of Love do like playing around their mid lane, and I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that with the Tristana, especially going up against a Renekton. If Damonte does want to play aggressively, that's a window for Nanachek to start ganking on the Rex side. We haven't seen Lyra on the Echo, but I don't think it will change his overall style, which is relatively actually conservative into the early game, and then he becomes more active towards early Drake or early Rift Herald. So I still expect mid priority from Unicorns of Love and Clutch Gaming to play towards their side lanes.
We'll see if they are going to play the same way that they have done through the regular seasons. Both teams coming in to the play-in stages have had a lot of time to prepare. You know, LCS finished 4 or 5 weeks ago. The Unicorns of Love finished their finals a few weeks ago as well. And we've had Scrim meta develop over that time. We've had 3 different patches develop over that time. And now it's time for both these teams, for both these regions, to prove their worth on the world stage.
And Medic, I've been trying to talk to as many coaches and players as possible to get a read on what is going to happen in the world's meta. And one thing that I keep hearing is that so many teams have a different idea about what is best.
Okay.
Which I love to hear coming into a World Championship, especially when we have, if we look forward to group stage, teams actually boot camping in different regions. But I think we're seeing that right here. I mean, just the fact that UOL has decided to bring back Heimerdinger bot lane when it has basically been non-existent from the 2019 meta is cool.
It's incredibly cool. I think the amount of flexibility in draft and in where champions can go is a joy coming into the world season. You look at it, we've got Tristana mid lane. Like, when was the last time you saw consistent Tristana mid lane apart from 2019? Probably back in Season 2 when you could play her AP. And being able to give someone like Nomans, who is the carry really for this Unicorns of Love team, a pick that can go in at level 2, that can go for these early fights, teaming it up with a jungler who can look for ganks at level 2, this could be a great start for the Unicorns.
Yeah, and I like it when there is more fluidity between the lanes and you're not necessarily dictating a role. So part of the reason that Heimerdinger can go bot lane is because there is still a marksman turret siege champion you can put elsewhere in Tristana. So it's not like these team compositions are incredibly lopsided in the things they prioritize. We have mixes of magic and 80 damage and it all in at level 1.
Yeah, Inex has to flash away. The Ignite is ticking on him. Vulcan and Cody Sun doing a lot of work down towards that bottom lane. They do have an aggressive summoner advantage in the form that they have the heal over the teleport for Inex, so they can combat summoner is the word I was looking for there. You can see already Cody Sun and Vulcan just trying to harass this Heimerdinger down just a tad.
Yeah, and as Nomans hits level 2 first and tries to get harassed down, we can talk a little bit about Cody Sun and Vulcan, because for most of the split, they were playing to not lose lane, but towards the end, in the right matchup, they would start playing more aggressively. And here I feel like they have an opportunity to play aggressive. With the Zyricon, they take the combat summoner, which means they're actually going for kills and going for all-ins. And they have the strong combos, so I'm glad to see they're so confident in here. They've both been playing a lot. They both hit about 1,000 LP in Challenger on the EUS server during their boot camp, so they're feeling very confident coming into this.
So they should. And Anasik is just going to walk across a ward here as he finished his entire top side jungle clear. Hasn't gone down towards the bottom, but Lyra has done a red side clear as well, so he's going to invade onto the Unicorns blue, whereas Anasik will go in to the blue of Clutch.
Yeah, so basically a fairly standard amount of vertical jungling, and it's actually somewhat rare that you see the timing work out so well, where both junglers seem to have almost exactly the same clear speed. What's interesting, though, is Lyra is opting not to finish his clear and instead go elsewhere. So when he ganks mid, he's going to throw this game into a little bit of chaos.
Vulcan's coming up as well. They've got the push in the bottom lane. Nomans uses the rocket jump to get away, and Lyra will just help Demonte push up this lane.
Yeah, this is one of the things I like most about Jungle Echo as a selfish jungler, is after every single gank, you can just throw your Q at the wave.
I'm just helping push.
You're just helping pushing to create tempo, but in all seriousness, you actually do get tempo. So they pushed in mid. This means now when he goes to scuttle, he has mid lane help if he wants it.
Yeah, Demonte's on his way across. The parallel convergence will not connect onto Anasik.
Got no smite. Neither of them have smite, actually, so...
Boss has the ability to come down just a little bit earlier from top as he is pushed in Huni in that top lane. Edward uses the Black Shield. Oh, gets a lot of damage down from the Blade Caller. Inax trying to answer back. He's fallen just a little bit behind in CS as expected, having burnt that flash early on. About 6 to 7 behind, depending on where the wave is.
Yeah, and the fact that UOL is getting pushed in is actually fairly bad for the Heimerdinger. I feel like Heimerdinger can excel as a laner when he has brush control, so you don't get to see the wind-up animations on his spells, making his grenade much less dodgeable. Of course, landing your spells perfectly on Heimerdinger gives you all the damage and stuff, but here comes Lyra once again.
And Anasik stunned up, Vulcan on his way, and Anasik's going to try and get away. Demonte here to help out. It's a 3v2 if Unicorns want to keep fighting this. The smite comes down. It looks like Nomans will just be accepting of the fact he can't really trade too much more. Huni gets rooted up in the top lane, but not too much more going to happen in that trade.
Yeah, so much to talk about early on, because Lyra is actually ganking so frequently. He's only 2 camps behind Rek'Sai, but they're coming back in bot lane. Nice stun. Yeah,
good stun. Good stun. Not going to be able to get that. And I do like the amount that Vulcan is teaming up with Lyra as well. They've used the fact that they're pushing in that bottom lane to get Vulcan roaming around and helping out his jungler, trying to get more control over some of these fights. And that is something we haven't really talked too much about, the Echo jungle.
Yeah.
Going into matchups, like, are you looking for early skirmishes? Are you looking for more farming? Are you looking for big team fights later on?
The reason I think we're going to see a lot of Echo is because you can look for whatever you want to look for.
Oh, it's the Lee Sin of junglers.
Yeah, his clear speed is respectable. It's not amazing.
Okay.
And once he hits level 3, you have so much control over the engagements. If you have double buffs and the other guy's low, you have so many things to chase him down. If you want to run away, your parallel convergence is an amazing thing that no one's willing to chase into, because it's a 2-second plus stun duration. And then because you have a dash and a stun, your gank is potentially very strong. So I think there's a lot going for the Jungle Echo right now after he kind of got a breadcrumb trail of buffs over the last half year.
A place the junglers haven't really spent too much time is towards that mid lane. And as we expected, Noman's has a bit of a CS lead. You're playing ranged into melee. You've got the harass potential from a Tristana. Expect Damonte to lose a plate here. And we'll see exactly how Unicorns can actually utilize this mid lane advantage. Because it's something they did so well in their regular season, was taking Nomans into side lanes, getting him towards team fights, and letting him just dominate a game. But against a team like Clutch, it's a lot harder to have one person carry an entire team.
Yeah, but if you look at what's happening in the mid lane, it is where basically all of UOL's early advantage is located. So it's not like he can immediately turn on, but when he is level 6, Damonte has to respect that. And oftentimes, if you are going to be picking a Renekton mid lane, you're trying to gank that lane and play around at least some type of the early CC combo. And there's just been none of that from Lyra and Clutch Gaming. So not necessarily what you would expect from Damonte, but we'll see. The game is still young.
Definitely is. Damonte trying to get some vision here as he goes down towards the bottom lane. Cody Sun and Vulcan have been pushed under their tower. Remember, they have no teleport there, so it's a lot harder for them to get back into the lane.
Very aggressive jungle pathing, and it's actually completely unspotted by Clutch so far.
Lyra's coming in with the parallel convergence, but Ananisic's already taken away that red. Now, Lyra, I wonder if he knows. He clears out the ward, and then I think he just expects that Ananisic has taken away the red.
Yeah, and then he's not willing to chase into Fog of War against a guy who just stole his red, so that's all right. Oh, here comes Huni.
Pop Blossom coming out. Huni getting some damage down, has to use the perfect execution to get away, but ends up just being about half health for half health trade in that top lane. Both the top laners still have teleport. Neither jungler really wanted to prioritize the Cloud Drake early on, but with 2.5 minutes before the Rift Herald spawns, I'm pretty sure I know where Clutch Gaming are going to be looking soon.
Yeah, they absolutely specialize in Rift Herald fights. In the regular season, they got Rift Herald in about 90% of their games, but they're already moving quick to topside. Lyra again trying to gank, knowing the ult's down.
Boss uses the shape splitter. Huni trying to get the damage down, but Boss flashes away. Lyra with the first blood, and Ananisic going in. Void Seeker chases him down, and Huni can't get away.
And now Lyra's trapped.
Stuck, and with the rest of the Unicorns coming in, Lyra trying to get away, but he's not yet level 6. Noman's jumps forward. That's 2 for the Unicorns.
And that's exactly the type of stuff Unicorns wants. Not only does the kill go onto Lyra instead of Huni, which will prevent Huni from snowballing that advantage, they also get their kill onto Nomans as he's able to roam up after that mid lane priority.
You can see just accelerating the gold on the side of Unicorns, but what Clutch Gaming did do well is get these plates in the bottom lane, keep the tower pressured on, and it means actually in terms of gold across the teams, it's pretty much even between these two teams coming up towards that 9-minute mark.
Yeah, so this will be really curious, Medic, whether or not Clutch Gaming rotates to Rift Herald in this instance. Because when they're not playing to win bottom lane, you can see it. But if they're dominating and taking turret plates, that could be a reason to stay there and go after Rift Herald. Watching this gank one more time, they don't get the stun onto Boss, but they do manage to get the kill as Huni tanks turret. But because Huni was tanking turret, it gets him into kill range and conveniently also gets Rek'Sai in behind Echo. And I really do like how they stop damage and allow Nomans to pick up that kill.
And Lyra not yet level 6. Remember, he didn't get his red buff down towards that bottom side. That's going to be some experience he lost out in the jungle. I'm not saying that single camp was everything that made that play possible, but it definitely helped for the side of Unicorns. And now, as you said, Jat, you have a big Nomans in the middle lane. Press the attack Tristana already at the Bilgewater Cutlass. It's going to be very strong as we get towards the mid-game. Still only 10 minutes in, though, and we seem to still be in the laning phase. Clutch have decided not yet to swap their bot lane up towards top, but perhaps this is the opportunity.
This is the normal recall timing. You're going to see Vulcan leave early. Oftentimes, Clutch would do this. Vulcan would roam up, and Cody Sun would have teleport, so he'd walk bottom, and if there was a fight, he'd teleport up. Now the fact that they don't have teleport means they actually have to seed the bottom lane if they decide to do this, and based on the early pathing, it looks like they're going to do this, and then probably try and take plates top lane after the fact, trying to kind of attack Ananishek right here. But the fight, if matched by UOL, could very well go in their favor. This could dictate maybe even the rest of the game if there's a big fight.
That's the question. How close will this fight be? Rift Tower picked up. Sorry, Scutler picked up. Ananisic quite low. Damonte going in. Noman's having to jump away. Lyra's down to about 300 HP, but he's still got the jump back. Here comes Huni in from the side, trying to take down that Rek'Sai. The rest of the Unicorns are on their way. Boss still pushing in top. Huni going forward. Can't quite catch on to the Rek'Sai.
And now he's over the wall by himself.
Boss going in. Huni no flash. Inax and Edward on their way. The Rift Herald has been started here by Clutch. Huni caught out. The Pop Blossom is actually actually Inax who takes the kill. Riftail still the target here for Clutch. They always invest into this objective, but sometimes it can cost them a huge amount, and it seems to have been their bane this game.
No, I think that was a huge mistake by Huni to R over that wall, giving over the kill, because essentially Clutch Gaming did have a temporary 5v4 where they pushed Unicorns off of that objective, but because Huni basically jumps over the wall to donate a kill, it means UOL gain control over the situation and pick up a kill.
And there are some times when you can say a team's predictable playstyle is beneficial to them. They know exactly how they're going to do every step of the game. They've done it so many times over. But if we can predict Clutch going for the swap, Unicorns are going to have predicted it and prepared for it, and you could see that there.
Yeah, what I also find interesting, though, is if we look at the start of this play, look at where Inax's Heimerdinger is.
Yep.
He's actually not at the play, and Clutch has more people here with Cody's Sun, but Cody's Sun unable to actually get damage off, maybe about a half second off, and UOL just kind of pulls it into a retreat, and right here is where Huni definitely should not have gone over the wall, because his team is all trapped on Rift Herald. The rest of UOL was pushed into the jungle, so the natural thing is going to be for them to collapse and kill Huni.
In the end, nowhere he can go. Of course, didn't have his flash available. Now, Clutch Gaming, once again, setting up towards the Rift Herald. Huni is down towards bot without teleport. You can see Boss actually already coming up through the river. So they know if Clutch are willing to commit to the Rift Herald, Unicorns of Love were going to take that fight. And you have a lot of, strong team fighting tools from the side of Unicorns. Pop Blossom is there. You have a lot of damage coming out from the Tristana. A big Heimerdinger turret can do a huge amount of work when the enemy is grouped up. Here we go, fighting around Rift Herald once again. Unicorns of Love have started it. It's down to about half HP. Vulcan's going to use the Grand Entrance to get away, and the rest of Clutch are on their way. Huni on his way up. Boss no teleport. He's stuck down towards the bottom lane, and now the Rift Herald's going to pull back towards Clutch this time. They're trying to look for it to reset before Huni gets there, and that will be big for Clutch. They now know Huni's in the mid lane, and they can make this a 5v4.
Yeah, and also based on where Cody's Sun is, Clutch Gaming's not in a position to actually get turret plates off of the mid lane, but because it's still prior to 14 minutes, the Rift Herald holds high value, and if at first you don't succeed, just keep running at Rift Herald. That's Clutch's motto, and I think they're going to get it.
I think they get it this time. Unicorns of Love said, okay, Boss, you stay down towards
Eddie,
the
what are you doing?
Edward just base checked straight into them. That was a diabolical mistake. Inax trying to steal this across the wall, won't quite get it. And Anasik going in, but the smite was landed by Lyra. They'll pick up the Rift Herald, and now when Anasik needs to get out of there, Huni's on the other side of the wall. Inax going to try and get some damage down. The knocker comes out, and Huni's quite low. He jumps across the wall, and the chrono break from Lyra will get him to safety. The Rift Herald goes to Clutch, but a bunch of plates go towards Unicorn's bot lane.
Oh, man, I feel like Unicorns was in a position to win that play. You actually just... It's okay to give over the Rift Herald sometimes, especially if you're taking advantages like these bot lane turret plates. If you think about it from a high level, the Rift Herald gives you 2 turret plates guaranteed. If you're going to get 3 by giving up the Rift Herald, it's fine to give it over. In fact, Boss is actually able to kill the entire turret, but Edward got too greedy. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and they ended up getting punished.
And Edward was all by himself when he was doing that as well. There was no one near him. Unicorns get 3 plates in the mid lane as well, so they're actually in a very strong position in terms of turret plate gold. And now that the plating has fallen and the Rift Herald hasn't been used, that becomes more of a tool just to open up a tower, get some more awareness on the map, rather than to get any of those plates.
Yeah, so a much lower value Rift Herald overall, and even though there was the mistake by Edward and the mistake by Huni, this is a comfortable place to be in the game for the Unicorns of Love. If you go before the game and say at 50 minutes, what's it going to be, plus 2k gold to UOL, you're going to take that.
Yeah, you'd say that every day of the week.
So what I want to track here is how Clutch is going to find team fights, and also how is UOL going to try and set up team fights, because the one thing they're lacking is a strong frontline pick as Huni tries to go in and get another solo kill.
Boss still has flash. Huni's going to jump forward. The flash away from Boss will get him to safety. Not quite enough damage there from Huni.
Huni's really pressing this game. That's a few times he's gone all in, just trading his ultimate, actually trades flashes there, so he is also making himself vulnerable while trying to make all the aggressive plays, and that can backfire in a pretty horrible way if you're never getting the gold for it, because you will just fall further and farther behind the overall pace of the game.
And I think it is also one of the reasons, looking over Clutch's record across the LCS, they actually tend to struggle when they're behind, because they keep going for these aggressive plays, but sometimes you're just outstatted by your opponents. Now we see Huni going in once again. The parallel convergence isn't going to land onto Boss, but the jump comes forward. Look at the damage from Boss! The tower! Rift Herald tries to take it. Huni's going to go in. Takes a lot of damage. Inax looking for the stun, can't quite land it, but the rockets will connect. Unicorns take 2. They don't even lose their tower in the top lane. And meanwhile, the rest of them are pushing in mid. Vulcan going in, gets the knockup. Cody Sun trying to get the damage down. The quickness comes out. Demonte from the side is going to catch on to Edward, who's once again overstayed. Edward flashes away. The damage coming onto Demonte is huge. No man's putting it out. And Nanistic there as well. He's ignited. He'll fall. That ends up being a 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane.
Cody thought maybe he would flash for that kill on Edward, but overall, a lot of chaos and another small advantage to OL because Inax is up top lane, just taking more turret damage, getting more gold onto his Heimerdinger. The big thing about that last play was the fact that Boss landed the root onto Lyra. Normally, Echo feels like he can turret dive with impunity because he gets a huge shield from his W and he can just ult out to break aggro. But actually, watch this. Lyra doesn't get his shield because he's trying to do damage off, then is hit by the root. So a misplay by Lyra, but a big play by Boss, and then the teleport comes in to pick up the 2-for-1.
And meanwhile, in the mid lane, at the start of this play, I just think Edward's totally overstepped. You know, they push back forward with it, with the Soul Shackles. Vulcan's able to jump out, and then Edward's just tanking the tower. Yeah,
I definitely feel, as I said, Huni was pressing earlier, Edward is doing the same thing in this game. Game 1 of a World Championship, as we discussed before, your entire year essentially comes down to, are you successful in these 4 games of this 3-team group? So definitely going to be some nerves on display, but for the most part, UOL is responding beautifully.
17 minutes in, they're about 3,000 gold in the lead, 2,500. They're going to get the first dragon of the game. It is a Cloud. They had the only turret of the game as they took down bot lane earlier on, but now No Man's may be caught out as Lyra comes in from the side. The jump away from No Man's will get him to safety. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Demonte is just continuously forced back. Clutch Gaming willing to leave him on an island while Lyra plays around Huni in the top side of the map. And we are starting to see some of those first completed items as well. You know, Inax has the Ludens, Blade of the Ruin King finished on No Man's. You've got the Super Soaker Spooky Ghost builds on Boss, so he's able to catch people out. Unicorns using the time they have down towards this bottom lane to take their second tower of the game.
They're doing a lot to try and accelerate this gold lead, and I also think about how are they actually going to approach team fights because they don't have a true tank. I think the Super Soaker and the Twin Shadows on Boss is a big way of doing that. They use those from range, they get the slow, they hope to land some type of CC, and then once they get 1 kill, then they can dive in.
The slow into snowball build fight. So you get 1 kill, you keep it rolling, you keep going, you keep
because
fighting.
It's not even Boss that has to land the follow-up CC. It could be Inax, it could be Edward. It's just one of those things, and they'll have enough range damage to try and get one of those executes. And then on the side of Clutch Gaming, they kind of made their way to Worlds through strong flank team fights. So that's one of the reasons I think they put Demonte on Renekton, not because they're great at playing around melee soul laners, but because Demonte is good at playing melee soul laners in team fights and trying to find ways to flank around. So that's what I think Clutch will eventually be trying to do as long as they can keep this game close.
Now, we've all seen the play where Sven on Sona flashes straight into Demonte because the vision control from Clutch is just too strong. Let's see if Clutch can do that once again. Keep an eye on where they're placing their pink wards. What are their areas of importance on the map? Huni here in the top lane was trying to catch out No Man's. Would be able to burst in pretty rapidly as there's no magic resist yet on the Tristana. And you've got a Hex Tech Gunblade already finished on Huni. But Unicorns of Love are doing this one methodically. 3 towers to 1, 3,000 gold in the lead as we come up towards the 20-minute mark in that next major objective. The Baron is about to spawn.
Yeah, No Man's down where if you land your stun as it's in the air, you try and put your turret down to get the beam. The hardest thing for these guys to do was late game team fight with Heimerdinger. It felt like the champion just fell off a cliff, yet when you see the Heimerdinger master play it, it's good late game. So in this situation where UOL looks to be entering late game with a gold lead, if Inax doesn't have that Heimerdinger mastery, the gold lead actually isn't going to manifest because the champion is incredibly hard to play in pro-level late-game team fights. So I'm going to be trying to watch that as we progress throughout this game.
It's definitely something we have to keep our eyes on. Inax, of course, having never even really played at a top 5 what am I trying to say? A major region level. He's never played in an LCK or an LEC or an LCS. This is the first time he's ever been to an international tournament, so there is a lot of weight on his shoulders being 2-0-0 on this Heimerdinger to have that impact in the team fights, to be one of the key carries for this team, and I'm sure the team trusts him, otherwise they wouldn't put him on the Heimerdinger for these plays. But we'll see if he's able to enact that gold lead in team fights, as now Clutch are trying to play around this vision control we talked about. They've cleared it out. Inax able to play safely, backs away, but it is usually Edward who is the one who oversteps in the mid game for the Unicorns of Love. He's the one that is trying to go a little bit too far. We've seen it a couple times this game. We saw it in their finals.
Is in a more traditional game setup where you have your marksman in the mid lane, your solo laners in the sides, but there's still so much threat coming out from Unicorns, and Nanasek is actually the guy who can make these fights happen.
Yeah, Vulcan knocked up, will jump away, and Anasek's just trying to get a bit of harass down. Really, Unicorns want to open up the mid lane tower so you can get some more of that deep vision. You can already see they've littered towards in the red side jungle of Clutch, and Lyra's now coming across to try and catch out Boss. But Huni is protected in the top side on the Akali. That's where Clutch's vision control is predominantly, and Unicorns will try and clear some of that out. It's very hard because Huni can burst pretty much anyone on this Unicorns of Love team right now if he finds one of them by themselves.
Yeah, that's what he's just trying to do. Should not have moved in that brush, though, knowing there is a Rek'Sai on the other team. Unicorns was able to see him in that brush, and I think this Mountain Drake that comes up in about 15 seconds is of very high importance with the small lead Unicorns has and with how fast a Heimerdinger team can take that Baron. The Mountain Drake will put a lot more emphasis on Clutch gaming to try and make stuff happen, which is why you see them moving first to the objective.
They're the ones that get control of the river. The Scuttlecrab has gone down for the Unicorns, but now Clutch are a little bit split. Demonte's down towards the bottom side, and Nanasek has the flank position. The knockup's going to land onto Vulcan. Koni-san pumps the Feather Storm to try and get away, but Vulcan's already down. And look at the damage on the Koni-san. No man's just deletes him. The rest of Clutch are falling in the pit. There's nowhere for Lyra to go. It's a double for the Unicorns as they clean up Clutch in the river.
And Medic, with how many people they just killed and the fact that they killed the enemy jungler, they're going straight to the Baron pit, and I don't think there's much Clutch can do to stop this.
You can hear the support for the Unicorns of Love here in the LEC studio. Incredible stuff by them. Of course, during their LCS times, they were never able to make it to Worlds, and here on their first showing on the world stage, they are pretty much dismantling Clutch in some of these fights. Incredible stuff by them. They will get the Baron, as you said, Jat, and now it's all on Clutch to defend, all on Clutch to work a way back into this game because they are so
Looking at this play, it's Unicorns who are organized and Clutch who is absolutely not. Look at Clutch's solo laners both getting bot lane priority. Meanwhile, their entire team is getting jumped on, and this is what we talk about is the Spooky Ghost coming out to slow them as UOL just piles on, and there was no escape. They chained the roots onto Lyra at the end to pick up the other kill. And Medic, oh my goodness, we talked about it a little bit before the tournament, but thinking about kind of play in history, even though the NA teams and the EU teams and the LPL teams always make it out, we're seeing them drop more and more games. I mean, last year, EDG dropped a game in group stage. G2 dropped a game to Supermassive and then had to win a tiebreaker to get first in the group. Gambit, the team from this region, took Cloud9 to 5 games in their series. So it is absolutely very plausible that UOL will be able to take down Clutch Gaming. We heard in the feature, Edward said they're going for first in this group. They are trying to make a statement in Game 1 here at Worlds, and they have all the cards in their hand with Baron and a 6,000 gold lead.
What a statement it would be. Of course, it would relegate Clutch to that second spot, meaning they would play someone who topped another group. You're looking at Splice, you're looking at Damn One Gaming, you're looking at whoever comes out of Group C. That's one's a little bit more up in the air, but it's so difficult for Clutch if they lose a couple of these games early on to actually be able to get to the knockouts in a favorable position.
I love me some overreactions. It's a double round robin in this thing.
No, overreact. It's game one,
Jack. Clutch is 1-0. That means they're going to lose the next one.
Time is done.
And it's over. But based on what we've seen in this game, I've seen Huni come out and press too hard. Yep. I've seen them try and reach for new picks, like the Renekton mid for Demonte, or the Jungle Echo for Lyra, where the Skarner was up the entire first phase. The champion, they really made it to Worlds on, and they decided not to pick it. So they're trying to kind of flex how flexible they can be, and they're getting flexed on by UOL, because UOL is the team that pulls out the Heimerdinger, gets No Man's on a Tristana, dominates that mid lane, takes the turrets, wins the team fights. They're the ones that are looking like the polished favorite.
A team that almost didn't make it to Worlds as well, and only won their finals 3-2 after struggling early on, and now they're pushing in towards this inhibitor tower. Clutch have to pull a rabbit out of a hat to defend. Huni split pushing on that tier 2 in the bottom lane. The teleport coming in behind them now as Unicorns open up the inhibitor. Looking for the damage. Huni misses the tangle barbs there. Unicorns need to retreat, have to back away just a little bit because they have to respect the damage that Huni can put down on this Akali now that he's hit 2 items.
So that looks like it will probably be the final push from Baron. unless UOL tries to go for one more. It would be a little risky because they're sitting on 2,000 gold in Inax's pocket and about 1,500 on each of the soul laners, but there will be one more Baron wave if they chose to do so. That would actually be a time for Clutch to try and get a fight.
Edward oversteps, Black Shield comes down, Huni could jump all the way onto the back line. He's going in! Holo! He's going to take down Edward, but now he's on the back line, has to pop the Zhonya's. He's in the Twilight Shroud and he'll get out. Great play there by Huni to find a single pick and get out alive.
Gets that one kill as UOL reached for that last push with a little bit too much gold in their pockets, but it was really just Edward stepping out of line. Whew, we still got ourselves a game, Medic.
And I do want to come back to the idea that we shouldn't overreact from game one, because it is a great game. It's great fun to watch. It's great to see the Unicorns challenging. But as you said, even if Clutch Gaming lose this, they do still have a double round robin to try and get back into it.
Yeah, as we saw last year, EDG dropped a game in group stage, G2 dropped a game in group stage. In fact, in the history of play-in, there has only been one, quote, major region in the LMS, actually HKA, who didn't win their group. And then subsequently actually lost to Fnatic in the best of 5 stage and made it through. I think that number actually is suspiciously low after watching so many of the play-in years and seeing how close many of the games can be. So I think it can be a wake-up call to the rest of the world that this play-in tournament matters. There can actually be some games of consequence and some upsets that happen that have large meaning. So UOL trying to make that statement and looking at the items on No Man's, I mean, pay attention to this guy throughout the play-in stage. We looked at the stats and we saw like, hey, maybe this guy can make some noise. And every time you look at stats like that, you think, okay, but did he do that, you know, in the LCK? Did he do that in the LEC? No. But now, look at what he can do to an LCS team in this game. So No Man's really showing up on this Tristana.
I mean, in the LCL, he topped mid laners for KDA, damage per minute, damage per minute difference, damage percentage, and gold percentage. So this guy is a key carry, probably the star player, not only of his team, but of his region. And as you say, we have to keep our eyes on him as the tournament progresses. Right now, Unicorns 5,000 gold ahead as we get to the 28-minute mark. They've just got their second Cloud Drake of the game. There's an Infernal in 5 minutes. In 1 minute's time, though, the Baron spawns, and you can see Clutch saying, okay, Unicorn saying, okay, we'll put some control wards in towards the Clutch jungle and make sure they can't approach this Baron too easily.
Yeah, and we're also going to see how much poise Clutch ends up having, because they still have Cody's son on Xayah, and he has 263 CS at 28 minutes, so once he gets Infinity Edge, he's going to have the potential to carry these fights. Clutch just has to make sure they have a reasonable setup. They can't be 3 people walking close to 5 and then running away until they die like they did at that Dragon fight. They've actually held fairly strong here. It was a 6,000 gold lead. Now it's 5,500 gold as they're waiting for this next Baron to spawn. It's a tough battle for them to win, but this game is not unwinnable for Clutch.
I have to feel that the next fight will define which way it ends up going. Unicorns of Love grouped up in the mid lane alongside Clutch Gaming. All 5 players from both teams within a stone's throw of each other. Have to remember the Unicorns could just do a 2-man Baron. You have a Heimerdinger there. Don't really have a true tank, so maybe it'll be a little bit more difficult for them, but the Rek'Sai could tank it up for a moment.
Yeah, no vision for Clutch, but if you look at their trinket setup, they are still saving the blue trinket on Cody's son, so they have numerous ways to check.
And I think
they're still playing over mid priority right now, so
you have to look at the side lanes in this sort of situation as well. You can actually see the Clutch Gaming inhibitor has started to be hit here by some of the Unicorns of Love's minions in that top lane. Bot lane is pushing in favor of Clutch, but that's going to take a while before it gets to the inhibitor tower. So at some point, the question does come up whether Clutch will send someone to deal with that bot wave, top wave.
Yeah, I think as soon as Renekton shows, we're going to see the Twin Shadows come out, as the Twin Shadows actually came out a little bit early, so I think that's a missed opportunity. Since Damonte's potentially going to have to show, unless they go for a fight very soon.
Heimerdinger's just started up the Baron. He put down an upgraded turret. He's just going to try and do it.
This is something that you need to know how to play Heimerdinger to do.
Yeah, and Clutch are backing away.
Doesn't look like he's got it, though. His turret's died, but now the rest of the team is coming.
Yeah. Unicorns of Love are going to do this Baron. Clutch.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to react in time. It's gone. The inhibitor was saved in the top lane, but Unicorns of Love start up the Baron. They take their second of the game. 7,000 lead still for them, and they'll be looking to break into this inhibitor line from the side of Clutch.
Yeah, no conflict Baron by UOL right there, which is always a bonus. That's what you're hoping for as you're accumulating advantages towards the late game. But also, Clutch Gaming was waiting on a few items. They now have that Infinity Edge onto Cody's son. However, No Man's has a few more items as he's going double Zeal, Infinity Edge, and will be absolutely shredding anyone who comes near him.
Dear me, that's going to be a huge amount of damage. I'd like to see him get maybe the rapid fire cannon as a next item.
I could see the rapid fire cannons, especially as they might be in these extended siege scenarios as they're trying to just land one binding. But Edward again!
Face check straight into Lyra, but meanwhile, the rest of the Unicorns were looking down towards that bottom lane. Huni is in the Twilight Shroud, but now he's being spotted out. He's on the wrong side of the map, and the Unicorns are chasing him down. Trying to stampede over Clutch in game 1 of Worlds, and Huni, he's caught out. No Man's jumps forward, Huni goes down. The Unicorns get their 10th kill of the game.
And this is the Huni that you ended up seeing a lot of in Spring Split Clutch, or when Clutch was struggling, because he continues to try and play at 85 miles an hour when he really needs to be going the speed limit. And at this point, that's just a pretty inexcusable death for Huni, and we're going to see if UOL can push in and take big advantage of it.
And we have the Autobahn here, so maybe he thought he was driving on the Autobahn, but there's no speed limit. He can just keep going as quick as he wants, but Unicorns are now trying to push in this bottom wave. Looking for that inhibitor tower. Of course, they've already taken inhib tower in top, but now with the Baron, they're going to open up the base of Clutch once again, pushing in the mid lane as well as that turret is going to fall pretty rapidly. The Unicorns just demolishing the base here of Clutch. Huni's still 3 seconds away. Where the TP wards, a couple very deep into the jungle of Clutch if Huni wants to try and get behind this team, but instead Clutch is just going to try and defend. 4 players in the bottom lane, 1 in the mid. Boss coming in from the side as well. That's just the shape split though. Now, Anasik is going to jump forward down into the GA. Boss has the flash pop blossom if he can land a tangle bomb, so he can't quite connect. Inhibitor falls mid, inhibitor falls bot, and now Unicorns can just back away and reset. Yeah, if it takes a flash and a GA for 2 inhibs, you take it. Even though that may have looked a little bit strange, I still think UOL got what they wanted. The Infernal Drake is still up. They have a Baron. This could very well be a 3-Baron game if they want it to be. They don't necessarily need to rush as long as Clutch Gaming isn't able to find any of these engages. That would be the Infernal as well. Unicorns of Love have had total control over the Dragons this game. 4 of them, 2 Clouds, a Mountain, and an Infernal at the 33-minute mark. Does mean we will have the Elder Drake win condition for them later on, as well if Clutch gain any control around the Baron. And with 4 minutes left on both the mid and bot inhibitors, and just a little bit of time left on the Baron, we'll have to expect Unicorns to look towards that top side of the map and see if they can make it all 3 inhibs down. Yeah, there will likely be a small lull in the game right here unless UOL can get a pick. If they do turn it into a 4v5 situation, I could see them pushing to end, but for now, they're going to use the 2 waves of super minions in order to get that 3rd inhib, because they're going to wait for Clutch Gaming, Demonte, or Huni to have to go and deal with a side wave, and then just kind of slowly push up with 5. UOL, as we kind of mentioned before, don't have a tank or that like really reliable initiation. They just have good poke. So they're just going to sit at arm's reach and keep pushing Clutch back so that they can get objectives. That's exactly what they're doing. We saw Demonte chunked out in the mid lane there. Unicorns of Love, they don't really need the minion wave to be here for them to go towards this inhibitor, but they want those supers in mid and in bot, as you said, Jack, to be pushing in so that Clutch have to react. Clutch on their last legs, but I've seen them like this in the regional qualifiers versus TSM, where they kept fighting until the very last. I have memories of the Pantheon game in game 1 where they just kept going for these engages. Yeah, the waves are in a spot where Clutch could theoretically get a good flank, but that teleport is so far away. Demonte's going in. Huni on towards the back line, almost chunked out. Demonte's all the way on the back of this fight, but this is too little too late. They jump in. Inax takes down one answered on the side of Clutch as the damage comes down. Lyra trying to do the damage off towards the side, and Nanasik has fallen. Cody's son is all on you. Demonte tries to heal up, but Boss goes in with a pop blossom, and now 3 members of Clutch are down. It's Cody, it's Lyra trying to defend versus No Man's, Inax, and Boss. No Man's jumps away. Inax maybe overstayed. Huni back up, joins the time, but Lyra's down, and now No Man's can open up, but Huni jumps back. The stopwatch comes out from No Man's, but Huni has the damage. He shuts him down, and Clutch have held on. Inax tries to jump onto Cody's son, but Cody's son is doing what he can. Inax almost falls. Huni goes down towards the top side, and the Unicorns of Love have just held on. And now Cody is all by himself trying to clear these. If UOL wants to double teleport back, they might be able to actually end the game during the death timers. What a fight that was, and Unicorns with 2 TPs can come back in for it. They're not going to do it. The super minion, the last standing. Vulcan's back up, and Clutch show us just how clutch they can be in some of these moments. They hold on, but they do lose inhibitor number 3, which means there will be, for a brief period of time, 2 super minions spawning
going in each wave. Watching this initiation happen one more time, Huni's just trying to buy time. He actually doesn't end up getting much done, and the initiation comes in a little bit late, but because they so quickly burst down Edward and Rek'Sai, they buy enough time with a stopwatch, and here's where the fight ends up getting very interesting, because it's all about buying time with your stopwatch when you don't have tanks to try and make this fight happen. But because Lyra comes in with his parallel convergence, it splits Inax from the rest of the team, and it's really Nomanz who salvages a lot of this fight, because he ends up saving Inax's life, but it ends up costing his own life because of the way Huni played it, and some very clutch flashes come in on the backside. Huni missed his E on boss, which would have actually been, if that E lands, I think Clutch ends up acing the UOL, because then they'd be able to 2v1 at the end of it.
Well, you said it could be a 3-Baron game. Unicorns of Love looking for their third. It has just spawned. They can back away towards it. Huni has teleport. He's in the base, but can he defend?
I don't know how Clutch is getting mid-priority, because it's 5v4. So UOL should actually just be pushing Clutch Gaming completely off of this objective, since Huni, if he does join, will lose his base.
At the moment, Unicorn's playing it just a little bit safer, but as you say, those double super minions pushing in the side lanes. It can be very hard for Huni to deal with all 3 waves at once.
I feel like this is a bluff by Clutch Gaming. They should not be here, because it will be 5v4.
Nomanz gets a little bit of damage onto Vulcan. Jumps forward, looking forward. Vulcan has to jump away. Busts a shot, not quite enough. He gets hit, but he pops the stopwatch and he manages to survive. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Demonte has been chucked out by the Unicorns. And you have to feel that's it. You have to feel it's done. Unicorns now don't even need the Baron. They can just push in with the super minions.
I think that is what should happen when you're 4-man up in the base and your Akali's in base dealing with all the super minions. So now it will be 5v4 in the base as Yoel tries to win the game.
We'll see if Unicorns are able to close it out here. The Pop Blossom comes out from Boss. Huni jumping onto Nomanz. Quickness comes out as well, but Nomanz is able to get away in time, and Nanasek down into the GA.
Cody.
And that is the kill. Inax taking down Lyra. And Nanasek rooted up. Cody Sun still trying to get the damage in here on the Xayah, but unable to find the connections. The mid lane inhibitors respawned. Bot lane's respawned as well. But the Unicorns of Love can just push in. Now it's a 5v3. Clutch Gaming trying to hold on to some semblance of the game, but the Nexus Towers are the target, and Unicorns will start Worlds off with a bang as they take down Clutch Gaming.
And welcome to Worlds. Clutch Gaming, the Pool 1 team in this group, falls to Unicorns, who have 3 members of the Vega Squadron team who went 5-1 in the MSI play-in group. So not a team to be taken for granted or looked past. And Clutch Gaming will have to bounce back from this one.
Need a big turnaround from Clutch. They do still have time, as we said. Game 1, they seem to experiment just a little bit with the Renekton pick. Seem to have just a few things that weren't conventional for Clutch, and they have their double round robin. They've got time to bounce back and to really challenge, but great credit to the Unicorns, who, with a couple of mistakes, were still able to get over the line in the end.
I think Edward was a little hyphy in this series. He's always kind of stepping forward, wanting to land that Dark Binding, since a lot of their team composition did revolve around getting picks. But for the most part, when we saw these guys match up, they were able to handily win the mid lane. Huni was unable to push an advantage onto Boss's Nico in the top lane with his Akali, and even though Cody Sun and Vulcan got flash level 1, were also unable to break through any type of meaningful advantage onto UOL. So at the end of the day, it was UOL's teamwork that ended up winning them the game.
And it's a track record that continues to seem to be true here for the LCL representatives. LCL is actually 5-3 over NA at international events across the last 8 times they've played. So I was a little bit surprised by the fact that they have this.
Even looking back to the last World
record,
Championship, yes, Cloud9 did beat Gambit in the best of 5, 3-2.
Yeah.
So you add this one, it would be 3-3. I can see where that number's coming from.
We're actually going to have another look back at one of the Dragon fights that led to Unicorn's first Baron in that game. And Nanasek is the guy we want to watch in this great flank position.
Yeah, so he gets a lot of vision onto the rest of Clutch Gaming, and the big thing to note here is that Renekton and Echo were not there. This is where the game ended up breaking wide open, but he ends up getting Vulcan, does not let him engage at all, and then I think the big thing is Nomanz is able to basically assassinate Cody Sun on the back end of that fight. That gave him the Mountain Drake, that gave him the Baron, that gave him the 6k gold lead, which they never relinquished the rest of the game.
And it was interesting because we've been praising Clutch so much for their flank positioning and their vision control and flanks, and it was actually Unicorns who were able to get the flank position off there, making sure they won at the fight. You've got a big oof there, Jack. What's your big oof?
too early for Tanner time. That's what I have to say. He maybe the time zone adjustment.
Give it 8 hours or so.
Something is wrong with Tanner time. Least damage in the game.
Yeah.
Rakan ends up out damaging Demonte's Renekton in this one.
I was really hoping to get a Tanner time call as well, because it's one of the big moments as a play-by-play caster where you just be like, chat, check your watch, it's Tanner time.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but I'm sure he'll
And then I told you, fit in, time belongs to no man's.
Yes.
But I guess
I really want to use he's in no man's land.
Yeah. Noise at the MSI plane when they went 5-1, they were 2 games away from beating Flash Wolves in 1 qualifying series to get into MSI group stage, and then they were 1 game away from making it against Feng Vu Buffalo.
Yeah.
So like they have been so close so many times. I think eventually